So a few years ago, I picked up one of the Zhiyun Smooth Q gimbals, primarily to use with my old Hero 5 Black GoPro to get smooth gimbal footage using the GoPro camera, since it didn't have stabilization built into it. But I've since picked up the Hero 7 Black. I got that last year when it was on clearance, and I've never really tried it out with the gimbal. I've just primarily used the iPhone with the gimbal, but I wanted to do a test to see if the Smooth Q with the GoPro is better than the Smooth Q with the iPhone. Now, this does have Hypersmooth built into it, so in theory it should be better than the iPhone on the gimbal. They're both designed for, the gimbal itself is designed for mobile devices like action cameras or cell phones. Now the XR does shoot pretty good video. Obviously the GoPro Hero 7 Black shoots pretty good video. The 7 Black has Hypersmooth built into it, so I want to do a test today to see if the Hypersmooth turned on with the gimbal is ultra smooth or super smooth. I'm going to turn the Hypersmooth off of the GoPro and use the gimbal and see how it is. And then I'm going to put on the iPhone XR and put it on the Smooth Q and see what kind of footage we get out of that. All right, let's dive right into this. So I got the GoPro on the gimbal. Just going to start it up. Loads up pretty quick. This is, I've just added the feet for my Feiyutech gimbal onto the bottom of the Smooth Q. It doesn't come with this, but you could just, any small compact tripod you could probably add to the bottom of that if you needed a little bit of an extra handhold, or if you just needed something to put on there to set it up when you're first setting up your gimbal. But the Smooth Q pretty much does everything for you. You don't really need to calibrate it at all. As soon as you turn it on, it pretty much just stabilizes itself, which is pretty cool. There are some Bluetooth features with it. This is a slightly older model, so the newer version does have a couple of extra things that you can do with it. But for the most part, this is pretty much all I need. I've had it for a few years now, and it's kind of my go-to small compact gimbal if I'm just out and about, or if I have my phone with me, or walking through the park or whatnot. It's kind of the one that I've always used. It's done me pretty well, so I haven't really felt a need to replace it or upgrade it with anything else. It does the job. It's perfectly fine, and as you can see, it sets up pretty easily with the GoPro on there. Now, it's a little bit different than, say, putting on a phone. Obviously, when you first turn it on, it's going to be, the camera's going to be pointing at you, which is what you don't want, essentially. So basically all you do is you just triple tap the main button and it will flip around into what's called selfie mode, I guess, or the opposite of selfie mode, so that when you are walking around with it, the camera is actually pointing away from you. I'll install the phone on there, and you can see the difference between how you maneuver it or handle it with the action camera on it versus the phone. But yeah, as you can see, pretty easy to set up, and there's a few different modes you can do with it. I'm just going to shut it down now and put on the iPhone. So the big difference between putting an action camera on this and a phone on this is the orientation of this thing. Basically, the way I had it set up would be for an action camera being wedged in between here. Now obviously if I put my phone in there like so, it's going to be vertical, right? And unless I want to shoot vertical video, which I don't, I'm going to have to move this. So basically there's just a little thumb screw on the back here, and do that, and it allows you to change the orientation. And it's spring-loaded, as you can see. So the way we want to do this is we want to, I'm just going to turn it on, because the camera we want kind of in the upright position. And you can sort of wedge it in there. It's got a little rubber plate on the bottom there, so you can kind of just wedge the phone at 3 different access points there. And we're just going to turn that on. and it's a bit heavy. So what we're going to need to do is this little thumb screw here, we're going to have to move this arm out a little bit. So there is a thumb screw, and so as you can see, a little bit different than the GoPro in terms of its calibration, a little bit more manual when you have a phone. But again, if you have whatever phone you normally use, and that looks pretty good, pretty stable, pretty. Have I got it in the upright position? I do. Camera's in the top left of that. So the main difference is whereas I had to do this to turn the phone around, or the camera around, with the GoPro so that the camera was facing outwards, this is now what they call in selfie mode, right? But you can flip the camera, if you can flip the phone around if you want, so it's pointing you, but because we want to actually see what we're filming, you kind of want to have it in the opposite configuration, so that when you turn the phone on, you swipe up, you go to your camera, you can actually see what's in front of the camera. In this case, it's a nice plain white wall. But if I have something in front of me, as you can see, so if I'm walking around with it, holding it, you have this configuration here. Pretty easy to set up. Again, a little bit of difference. You just have to turn this plate here, adjust that depending on the width or size of your phone, just to kind of get it balanced, and away you go. And from here, we're going to get on outside and shoot some footage using both the Hero 7 Black and the iPhone XR. I'm going to turn the Hypersmooth off and on in the Hero 7, just to kind of see what the difference is. I'm going to probably shoot in 1080p, just to kind of see what the difference is in that. I might shoot some 4K footage as well, just to be for fun and kicks, using the GoPro Hero 7. But we'll see. I just want to kind of get a test to see what the smoothness is, and the sort of the jitters or whatnot of both the GoPro and the iPhone. I mean, you could use any top quality or top-notch brand name smartphone with this, just to kind of see what the difference is in terms of its ability to smooth out your footage. All right, I'm going to start with the iPhone first, and then we'll move on to the GoPro after that. All right, so let's look over the footage that I shot when I was out with my Zhiyun Smooth Q with the iPhone XR on it. I was walking around these trails that are just kind of local to me. They're gravel paths, slight elevation changes up and down, relatively smooth. There's some paths that you'll see later on that had some roots and things like that. And the primary goal was to kind of compare the Zhiyun Smooth Q gimbal with a relatively higher end smartphone like the iPhone XR and the GoPro Hero 7 Black, with both the Hypersmooth on and off. This is with the iPhone XR. I'm shooting at 4K, 60 frames per second. This is straight out of the camera. I haven't done any stabilization. I haven't done any color correction or any kind of speeding up or slowing down. And right off the bat, I'm noticing that every time I take a step, it's probably with my right foot, there's a little bit of a jitter or shake to the footage. This could probably be eliminated with some stabilization in post-production or slowing the footage down to kind of minimize that. This footage here is the same setup. I'm kind of going around some winding paths to kind of give you an idea, but overall it's not bad. I would probably smooth this out a little bit in post-production, but straight out of the camera, this is, I mean, it's definitely better than just walking around holding your iPhone in your hands. But I did notice that there is a little bit of a shake or a little bit of a jitter every time there was a footstep taken. And I'm not walking slowly, I'm not walking quickly, I'm just normal pace. My arm is holding the gimbal at about 45 degrees out, so, you know, which is kind of the optimal position for holding a gimbal, I guess. But yeah, it's not terrible, it's not great. It's passable. I mean, if you're just kind of walking around, I mean, obviously these are pretty long shots that I'm taking. But if it was sort of like little quick 5-10 second clips of you kind of walking through the forest or out in the city or whatever, it's passable. This would be fine. But it will be an interesting comparison to the GoPro to kind of see what the difference is in that. And you can kind of notice it mostly when you're kind of walking in a straight line, and the fact that there is that little bit of a jitter. There's going to be the up and down motion. I did notice that when I do shoot with my GoPro a fair bit. There is sort of a little bit of a bob up and down, but definitely better than not using a gimbal at all. I'm just going to sort of end this iPhone XR segment here, and this is with the, as you can see, the Zhiyun Smooth Q with the GoPro Hero 7 Black. This is Hyper Smooth turned on, so the stabilization in the camera is turned on as well. And right off the bat, you'll notice that it is considerably smoother. There's really no jitters, no shakes. This path here was just a little bit more uneven than the big wide gravel path. And again, this is straight out of the camera. There's no post-production or anything done to this, no slowing down or anything. You could probably smooth this out if you did kind of slow it down. This is shot at 4K, 60 frames per second as well. And you could probably smooth it out in post-production with some stabilization and a little bit of slow motion added to it. Maybe drop it down to like half, maybe get 30 frames per second footage out of it. But even sort of winding around these paths, you'll notice that it is considerably smoother. And again, there's a little bit of a bob up and down, but that's, I think, attributed more to the gimbal and the camera. This is walking up a slight incline. A little bit more bob up and down, you'll notice, primarily just due to the fact that I'm probably taking longer steps or putting a little bit more effort into the walk itself. But again, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I've always kind of shot with my GoPro on the gimbal in this instance. This is the Hero 7 Black with the Hypersmooth turned off. And this is a paved path, but with, as you can see, there's some paint markings on the ground where I guess the city is going to do some maintenance work to this path because a lot of the roots are starting to come through. A little birdie there. Yeah, a little birdie. But yeah, this is definitely a more uneven path, even though it is a paved path. But you'll notice right off the bat that it is not as smooth as the Hypersmooth turned on, or the stabilization turned on in the camera itself. This is on the gravel path. Again, Hypersmooth turned off on this. Definitely, if you're going to sort of shoot this type of footage with a gimbal, turn the Hypersmooth on, or if you have any kind of stabilization on your phone or your action camera, I should say. These gimbals, like the Zhiyun Smooth Q, the Feiyutech G6, any of those ones that are designed for mobile devices are good. I mean, you can pick these things up for under $100 on sale, whether it's online or in your local camera shops or whatever. They're definitely worth an investment if you shoot footage like this. Sort of walking around, they're not very intrusive, easy to set up. They don't really require a lot of calibration like the larger ones do. So you can usually just pop on your device and go. Yeah, definitely worth an investment. And again, for walking videos, I'd probably use a bigger gimbal with a bigger camera. But, you know, in a pinch, these things are great if you're just kind of out and about and you want to get some smooth footage of stuff. Definitely recommend them. But as a final note on this, I would say the GoPro Hero 7 with the Hypersmooth turned on is the best option for this gimbal that I'm going to go forward with. So, and basically just to end it, I'll show you some footage that I usually use my gimbal for. Just sort of interesting little sort of panning shots and things like that. I came across this kind of little piece of graffiti art on the wall there, and this is slowed down, approaching the flowers, and then just a little bit of a pan up on that. So yeah, just kind of fun stuff. I like my gimbal. Definitely go out and get one. And that's pretty much it for this video. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the old thumbs up button there. And if you want to see more videos like this, just go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I enjoy making these videos. It's kind of a little side hobby project for me, so I will continue making these videos as long as people like watching them. And that's it for now. We'll see you again in the next video.